Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. Today we have a grand 3v3 on Highway to Seoul. I am going to be in blue, both my allies in green, of course, and I'm playing as West Germany. So, not something I'm really too familiar with. I was really just trying out the deck just to see if I like it. And F4 FKWS is going to be defending against early bomber action, particularly in 3v3s. I've seen that happen before, where you begin the game and it's just a big air raid into the expected advance positions, which on Highway to Seoul would be all along the main highway. So if a B5 bomber came in, or something like that, maybe the KWS would be able to do something about it. So my intention is to head up to the northwest here, past Foxtrot toward Echo, and push across, and this will both guard our land reinforcement route on the western side, as well as potentially attack my opponents. So, it's a good theory. It might work. I do have troops on the ground as well. I unfortunately forgot them there for a minute. SPZ Lux and Leopard for Kenning. In the center we have Vimes with Israel, and on the eastern side this is Grim Reaper with the USA. I believe it's a USA airborne deck, so we're going to see lots of planes from him. And here come the opponents there. So MI2 yours, yeah, that's Polish. I think it was either a Baltic deck or a Polish deck. It wasn't really quite clear on that. But there's a lot of paratroopers coming in from Helk Mom, which I guess maybe that's a Helo Mom or something like that. Not really sure. I'm trying to answer with the Bow 105s. They're cheap, 50 points, but they have stingers, and that's good enough for me. So we'll see what they can do. And yeah, one of the paratroopers is down. Second paratrooper going down as well. UH-14 is just trying to distract the Mi-2 URS. It's a cheap anti-helicopter plane, but it still did manage to land a hit there. Actually hit both of my bows. And I have Scout Infantry headed up toward Echo. So far, so good. Fallschirmjäger as well are going to be moving up and trying to secure that middle ground. In the meantime, Grim Reaper over my eastern flank is moving toward the north end of Charlie, encountering a large enemy column here, so that does unfortunately take down some of his helicopters. And in the middle, Vimes is not really encountering much of anything. So we have eyes on a couple units of infantries in Tastra 184s, but otherwise this seems to be... Yeah, okay, so Warpig is in the center of our opponents. There was Helpmom, Warpig, and Player. Not really sure who either of these guys are. I've played with Warpig once or twice, but that's about it. Never really played with Helpmom or Player before, and I think Player was mostly fighting Grim Reaper over on the eastern side, so yeah, it looks like that is his stopping ground over in Charlie. So the KCT are moving up and into the center woods. Smoke along the central position should be helping them a little bit, and Maglans are opening up on the Tatra 148s. But I think Warpig's probably already unloaded his infantry, and here comes the response. So not one, but 5 Niwash helicopters, and these guys are cheaper versions of Sokols, basically. So the Strela 2Ms are relatively weak individually, but, well, there's enough of them, and those autocannons are going to be opening up on my Fallschirmjäger, who were a little overexposed, not quite in the woods, and just barely not able to make it into hiding in time to stay away from that response. There's also a Salamandra moving up behind it, and the Niwaj are just going to wait to fire ATGM my SPZ Lux. Any individual one might not hit and might not even kill, but just sheer weight of fire. I mean, that was 12 ATGMs all told, I think. And Player is getting a little bit bombarded now. We do see the American air power coming out a bit more. T-64Bs taking a bit of a pounding, but they're cheap tanks, and that HE bomber really didn't get all that much done. So a bit of a standoff here as Grim Reaper's front line is made. So assault engineers, maybe not my favorites, but napalm launchers are good at chewing through infantry, and when backed up by Comvats and Bradleys, it can definitely be a deadly mix. In the meantime, the Israeli player Vimes here probably should have pushed up a little bit more, having not encountered too much resistance in Delta. It would be nice to take the forward woods, maybe work our way up to the northeast here as well. But for right now, we're just kind of sitting there, and I'm really struggling with how to respond to this. So I have a Flakpanzer Gepard A2, and, it's the 65-pointer, 2800 meter range against helicopters is pretty good, but it's not exactly phenomenal, and it's not enough to reach these Niwash that are pretty far back. KCT doesn't really see much of anything other than the helicopters for right now, but I am suggesting right now to the Israeli player, push up here, attack, see what you can do, see if you can get something done. My Leopard Verkenning unfortunately takes a shot from a Salamandra. I thought I would be just out of his range. It turns out maybe not so much, especially now that he has moved up. And there is also artillery coming in and pounding this position. This looks kind of like mortars, but they're probably the larger ones, the 5HE, or it could be a cheap howitzer employed in bulk. I'm not entirely sure as that's coming in. And I haven't looked at this in neutral, so I don't really know. I do often look at neutral before I do the replay with commentary, but, well, pressed for time a little bit today, unfortunately. So my bows are trying to head up and take down the Salamandra. This was pretty stupid on my part, honestly. It was really just it'd be nice if we could get it, but there's a Strela that's opening up, Niwaj are opening up as well, and yes, we get it, but the Salamandra's 80 points, and each of those helicopters were 50, so I've just traded poorly, and my Fallschirmjäger as well are being sort of scouted in force here as the Polish players moving up, and those Niwaj are going to make short work of my remaining Fallschirmjäger. So, in Echo, we have KCT still holding the central woods, moving over, no longer spotting on the western side, trying to ambush these Prusminsi, who are very excellent at infiltration, and if they were to get forward, I would have some problems with that, as the Dragunov is very nice at killing infantry, and my KCT don't exactly have an answer for that. I mean, the follow is pretty good, but it doesn't have the same 1,000-meter range versus infantry. A THS Mi-24A, unfortunately, is going to punish my looks here a little bit, as that gun opens up, hitting the Prusminsi, not enough to kill them, and my KCT, yeah, those must be cheap howitzers, because mortars I don't think would do that much damage that quickly. Of course, they do survive, but 7 men killed is not what you want to see. In the meantime, Player and Grim are just having one of the weirdest matches I've ever seen, at least in a while, as Charlie isn't capped, but it is defended, and there's not much motion on that front, so Grim has secured his front line, but he's not really pushing too much. And now we're starting to get a little bit of forward progress from the Israeli player, as well as a Ramreki, Givati, and Bedouin lead the charge. So there's a lot of fighting going on over here. I'm trying to get a Flak Panzer Gepard up far enough to hit some of these helicopters, but it might not be my smartest choice ever, as, you know, ATGMs or defending tank, and there is one back there, would be able to make short work of me. So tank's shooting in, I'm trying to get the Flak Panzer Gepard back, but those T-55s are going to have a field day, and unfortunately, my Leopard Verkenning is not enough to really answer, not against an M84AN anyway, and even the T-55s are only taking about 5 points of damage per shot. Of course, as things get closer, that will go up a little bit, and we do kill one, but, you know, it's not exactly the best trade, particularly if I can't escape, although I'm certainly trying to. Now, my KCT, I should have moved them. They're getting pounded again and again, down to 6 strength, but a PAH-2 Tiger is able to even things out a little bit, as I'm getting some nice ATGM rounds off on BVPs. One of them does go down, but here, I mean, look at how many helicopters there are. The Niwaj have been reinforced again, and now we have FJB and an M84N. Excellent infantry, excellent scout tanks moving forward, trying to secure this position. The Leopard 2A5 sitting up on the high ground was my deterrent. So the idea would be that he should have line of sight on things that get a little bit too close. Leopard's trying to get out, but taken out by the M84AN, and that was a bit of a loss. I probably should have attack moved at that point, because he was, I mean, once you're down past this ridge and you can only come up by reversing this way, it's not really going to be great. You're going to be presenting side armor, trying to get your facing correct, things like that. So Delta still has not been capped, and, well, it's a little late to point this out, but this is a conquest game. Currently we're sitting at 80 points against our opponent's 0, which, hey, if we can hold that, that is good enough. And now I have 2 SPZ looks, maybe not the best idea to group them up, but they take out a silo, which is nice, so that's AA infantry. But an M91 AV is going to block the path, and I don't see it until too late. So that's one shot. And if my looks can't hide, that's very soon going to be another. I was trying to get the AA in that woods, but not quite enough to take him down. In the meantime, however, the Leopard 2A5 does get a nice kill, another one of those, well, I thought it was T-55, but nope, just looks like a transport vehicle taken down by him, but FJB are moving forward, and they have very nice RPG-7Vs, so, well, I guess no, the LSTR have the better ones. But 17 AP power, high explosive anti-tank is still pretty good. Nighthawk coming in from Grim, trying to save me, and he does damage, and I think kill some of the FJB that were moving forward, and now we can see that his success over in the east and my ally Vine's success in the center, or at least lack of failure in the center, shall be certainly a large help. So Givati and a couple other Israeli units are moving up on the, well, I guess they're positioned on the southeast side of Echo. Delta will soon be capped, which will get us the +1 ticking score back, which was very nice. And I'm trying to, yeah, so Vimes and I are trying to coordinate a defense actually in the zone, because my attempts to use this ridge line have been relatively unsuccessful. Tornado 1DS coming in, and that bombing run, if memory serves, did get a kill, as it just gets right to the edge of that wood line and takes out a couple FJB. Very nice. I think you can see... No. Okay, maybe not. It could have been a different bombing run, but I thought that one was pretty good. Smoking the 2A5 to make sure that no ATGM planes can answer, of course. And there is a bit of a push coming in. It looks like it from Helkmom and maybe from Warpig as well. No, mostly Helkmom into Delta, so we'll have to see how that works out. But that is spotted, and so the request is for either a bomber or for howitzers to open up. If we look back here, right, I was playing Dutch-German, so of course we have the M752 Lance. And that artillery piece is, I mean, it's big, it's powerful, it's not all that accurate, and unfortunately it's a little bit slow. So by now most things have moved away from this point, and I think I targeted actually at these woods, because usually if the player on this side of the map has control of this side of Delta, that is where the Red 14 will push into. So unfortunately the Anyafa is not unloaded yet, and we still haven't capped Delta, which is a little bit annoying. I think I pinged that pretty soon just to say, hey, what gives? KCT moving up to hold the line against an expected infantry push, as both of these entrances have been smoked. We also have backup riflemen and M2 Bradleys from Grim, although the Bradleys are maybe a little close to the riflemen. They're moving up. Yes, okay, so the riflemen are moving up just a little bit so that they'll take the brunt of the fire, and the M2 Bradleys can open up from a safer distance. And more importantly, once infantry are using their tertiary, they can't switch their secondary unless they lose target or are manually told to do so. So Brzezinski moving up, I lose the KCT in the central town, and Smoke is attempting to fend off Israeli advances as Helkmon is trying to move forward and push us out of the center zone. But that's not going to have a lot of success. A Lavi coming in, and those bombs are going to be absolutely brutal. Motschützen and Letzterschützen, and only 3 Motschützen left alive after that bombing run. So very nice there. My own Tornado comes in again and does a bombing run, actually takes out a couple of Niwaj, and this was... that cracked me up at the time. I lost my Tornado, so again, not trading well for value, but in terms of getting rid of those helicopters, it was very much worth it. My problem now is Warpig's M84AN that is moving a little bit danger close to the front of this formation. So I have a Leopard 2A5, should be another Leopard coming as well quickly, but that M84 as a scout tank is very capable of spotting his own targets, and when there's backup with the other M84As, that can get deadly really quickly. So we have Lard TOW2s already having been useful a little bit on this front. Moving up, if I can catch sight of that M84AN, which I can't imagine, I'm really surprised that when you shot there we didn't get visual, but yep, I'm hoping the Lard TOW2s can do something. There's an M163 that actually stuns the M84 just because, you know, enough bullets going in at one time. And I am relying very heavily on my ally Grim and my ally Vimes here, so unfortunately that means that some of Charlie is stagnant, as player is moving up a KA-52, probably reinforcing this whole zone pretty thoroughly. And we do have the march of the Israeli infantry and IFVs into, well, further into Delta at least, but this is going to be a bit of a punished push as the OAT-62As open up, and there is helicopter support with the Mi-2 URS. However, artillery is coming in, and that may make a difference. On this side, we have a couple tanks still pushing, and I'm trying to get AMX Prees down here specifically to draw fires, to tell me where things are. It's scouting in force, as it were. So we find the FJB. I know that they're right there now, and that's good knowledge that I can make use of. Smoking at this point the other way down, trying to keep my leopards alive and well, and pretty soon we should be getting infantry over to Echo. So it's a little bit of a slow game, a bit of a slog, at least on my side of things. Delta Force trying to move up in the east and unfortunately taken out, it looks like, by something with grenade launchers, so could be any number of infantry fighting vehicles. And M2A2 Bradley's also getting a little bit of an unfortunate engagement as they try to dodge cluster artillery but end up walking into the autocannon of a BTR-90. In the meantime, however, we do get infantry forward enough to engage the FJB, so they are going down, but Niwaj are still taking out my AMXs, and we have artillery again taking out the infantry. These are just Natra, which are militia. I'm probably not quite saying that correctly, but I'm doing my best. And that artillery, I really should have counter-fired it at this point, but it's going to move around so much that it's really going to be a hard thing to do. However, the last of the FJB go down. We now have support from a Shanav 2, courtesy of the Israeli player, that has somewhat larger range against helicopters. That should be 33-25, able to take down a Salamandra, which is always very much appreciated. And another Pivad's being called out by Grim, trying to secure that ridge. Things on that ridge have been getting shot pretty consistently, which is why I didn't have a Gepard up there. Well, I did have a Gepard up there and it died, but Nathras, of course, just doing their job, getting shot, and Fliegerfaust are able to take down another one of those Niwash helicopters. So we are starting to get a little bit of an answer to my opponent's position at this point. And the Rangers still haven't been moving up, so I think he's just been keeping an eye on all of players' reinforcements moving forward, although it's not a spectacular vantage point. It's better than nothing, right? So Block 15 OCU was going in, trying to kill an M84A, but I lost visual, and so I evac'd that plane before he could die. And there's a lot of artillery coming in now from several different positions from our opponent, smoking this central area, trying to also stun and kill probable scout infantry. They might not have known it was Maglan, but, well, they certainly knew something was there. And my Fliegerfaust are unfortunately taken out by a T-55 that got vision on them as my Fliegerfaust got a little too close to the ridge looking for additional helicopters. So, now is finally the time where we call out the Martyr 2s, and the idea is basically we've held this corner for a long time. Bedouins are scouting and found a couple of War Pigs units there, and if we don't push into Echo and secure a foothold here, I'm not sure how much longer I can hold this ridge. So, I mean, there's just more encroaching tanks, there's more encroaching infantry, there's stuff that I can't spot. Attacking over the ridge is a bad idea because it's attacking blind oftentimes. And my TOE2s haven't been able, I mean, they got some good value that wasn't really highlighted here, but I think they got a couple kills. It was all on cheap stuff, transports, infantry fighting vehicles, and the like. However, Delta is well secured. Charlie now getting a little bit pushed as player does try to move forward. M3A2 Bradley is going to make him regret that, however, so let's see. Looks like a BTR-90, taking fire, and killed. So nice kill from the M3A2 with that Bushmaster autocannon. And let's take a look. So Lavi's coming in, more bombers coming in. I really want that T-55 dead, but he's not worth it for an ATGM plane. 55-point medium to light tank, I would say. Is not exactly a great deal to sacrifice a very valuable ATGM plane for. There are infantry in these woods, courtesy of Warpig, and that's sort of what tells me, okay, we have to do something about this now, because if they start pushing up all three of these approaches over at the Skavati, and then here in the central zone, and here as well, I'm not going to be able to hold that very well. So mortars are answering, trying to stun the Lord TOE2s, trying to get rid of that T-55, one shot away, and no second follow-up as the T-55 does reverse out of range. Of course, the TOE2s will draw answering artillery fire, but now we have some infantry, Stuttruppen and YPRs, and some Panzergren, I think, in Martyr 2s, as well as some scout infantry, also in YP transports. And the idea is going to be establish some sort of base here, use the Martyr 2s as close-in fire support that should be able to blow through most of my opponent's IFVs, and then if need be, I'll have support on the high ground from either one of these Leopards. I'm just really hoping that those mortars run out of ammunition at some point, but it doesn't look like that's going to be anytime soon. So, Rangers still sitting there, and Charlie is still stagnant for a little while yet. Nona SVK is starting to move up, and the combat is spotted. So this tells you a couple of things. It tells you that the player, despite having the appearance of sitting still, is slowly, ever so slowly, inching forwards, while, of course, on this side, we're ever so slowly inching backwards. Not exactly where you want to be, although we do have a +1 ticking, and we're at 200 points out of 500. There's still 20 minutes left in the game, and that's more than enough time for things to go south. So the YPRs are opening up, we have infantry moving forward, Panzergren trying to get to the forest here, KCT trying to get to the forest, Martyr 2s allowing the other, and worse, transports to move first. So of course YPRs, 15 points mechanized with an autocannon is bog standard, nothing too special there. A Nighthawk coming in, and this whole approach just gets absolutely crushed. So lots of special forces, lots of FJB from Helkmam getting just obliterated in a single HE explosion. And Ayit, unfortunately, is shot down as there's no radar AA in this area, just a lot of non-radar AA. And Halkmom and Warpig are fighting back. So Przminski firing at YPRs, Stuttruppen, Panzergren, and KCT trying to secure this as the Martyr 2s do get in range. And those big guns, man, I love the sound of those as they support my infantry. FJB, and FJB, a lot of special forces. It's high performance, but it is rather expensive, and the lack of a tertiary means that they'll struggle against things like Panzergren 90 that have shock training, but have two guns with which to shoot. Also that IMG-3 opening up using its longer range to take down the last of the Przminski, as we have organized artillery fire, and this is the meat of the game right here. If we can push forward and secure Echo, that's going to be really hard to recover from. So an Alpha carrying command infantry is called in by the Israeli player. I'm not sure I noticed that at the time. I think I might have called in my own as well. But we really have done a pretty decent job now, especially with the M2A2. Well, there was an M2A2. We've done a pretty good job now of pushing farther into Echo. Stutrippen still alive, Martyr's still alive, Panzergren taking some fire, but still alive, and the KCTs were retasked over left so that I could see these FJB and shoot them from the ridge. Lord Toe 2 is opening up, and down goes the T-55 that I've wanted dead for oh so long, and these FJB aren't going to be able to stand up to sustain fire, so the long range should follow. Tertiaries, of course, are very, very powerful, and most importantly are allowing my KCT to shoot without getting much answering fire. So we do have enemy helicopters coming in, as well as an M91A Vihor, and that main gun is going to punish the KCT on the high ground. My Leopard 2A4 moves forward, but takes a nice shot from some M84s that I was unable to really trade with, so I'm moving him back, trying to keep him alive as my KCT get worn down. And the Martyr 2s, unfortunately, will draw some fire here, so stunned, firing computers reset, and rocket pods going in, giving them a really bad day. A single man in these brave Stutrippen moving forward just to try and be present in those woods to avoid getting pushed back on that side. And now we have a Snezka that's defying two M1A1 Abrams, which isn't going to work for all that long. The Abrams, of course, do take out a couple of transports there and are shooting in. Niwaj do have Matlukas, and I mean, this is a really nicely timed thing, I think, because that Velskita command vehicle was trying to come in and cap Echo. Of course, having secured Echo now, we do have a +2 ticking. 253 points means that we are past the halfway mark for our conquest victory, and now it looks like we might even win before the remaining 17 minutes are up. Przminski, a cheap and very effective scouting option, do find my Panzergren, but between the SPZ looks and the Abrams, he is going to be taken out. A lobby coming in as well. A bit of a questionable bombing run here, but trying to get rid of those proletary. I think they might... Yep, they actually died right before the bombs hit, and now we're trying to move out of the way of those incoming mortar rounds, but a Snezka ends my Luke's career pretty quickly, pretty severely. Leopard 2A5 coming around, trying to get another main gun online in this area, and there's a double stack of T-72 M2 Modernas. More support from the Nighthawk coming in, and this side of the battlefield has become the central focus, and by quite a wide margin as well. So it was HE bombs going in, but the Vihors are still alive. There's two Modernas in there as well, and we're going to have some trouble handling those without good fire support, without probably ATGM planes, because I'm not so sure I have anything that can fight that on equal footing. A J-22 Oreo coming in, and this is the bomber, not the ATGM plane, which is of course the Oreo 2. So let's see what he's going after as... Oh, that's a nice shot with the mortars. I do like that quite a bit. And it looks like he is trying to bomb my Leopard 2A5. Anti-AA guns opening up, and the Oreo is punished for it. My Leopard, pretty heavy armor on that 2A5, 4 back armor, 3 top armor. We're able to shrug off those small HE bombs pretty easily. Of course, moving back to resupply, and my Leopard 2A4 cycling forward, having repaired and resupplied earlier on. So now we have more Martyr 2s, more Panzergren trying to move forward, a combined push with Vimes as well, so Gavadi and Milyuim in those forests. And unfortunately, Martyrs are biting off a bit more than they can chew with that T-55 opening up. I'm trying to get to the woods, and... Ooh, no, that was a bit of a mistake. They should have stayed in the woods. I think maybe they're trying to get to the closer in woods, but that's a mistake. Of course, we do take out a BVP, but that's very much not worthwhile. And, ooh, my Block 15 does go down as well. So he was sent in, I think, after the Modernas, or it could have been after the Vihor. I think we did get him as well. It just, came at a bit of a cost. But now we have infantry grinding with infantry, Panzergren, and KCT shooting at Proletary, which would be a losing fight because the Proletary are in the town, except for Martyr 2 support. So those main guns opening up, stunning and burning through the Proletary with relative ease. Just to take a look over the right-hand side, of course, things have been worn down a little bit. We finally have Rangers up and spotting our enemy base, spotting players BM-30 Smirch, so that's kind of amusing, if not too useful. And I think I'll be trying to get a Lance online for that in a little bit. So we've cleared out the town now, and I need to get infantry into there if we can. It should be very helpful. Moving just in time to avoid the mortar fire, and bombing run comes in at Moderna. Oh no, that was my artillery. I hit him with the lance, and it did actually okay. So, sometimes you get lucky. Flakpanzer Gepard moving up, supporting the Leopard Verkenning, which is dueling with an M84A. A little bit of a dangerous duel here. He is shooting in at my Leopard, my Gepard, which was extraordinarily annoying, but let's see if the Leopard Verkenning can get him, and no. So the Verkenning misses, the M84 does not, and my Gepard pays the price. But we do finally get the M84A with that last tank shot, so down he goes. The remains of that heavy tank, well, sitting in ashes on the field. Leopard Verkenning and a Leopard 2A4 moving up now. I need more AA, but I'm relying on my opponent here not realizing that my only Gepard is gone. Of course, also calling out an iHawk Helos, better against planes, and the Helos is the one that does not have a radar signature as well, which I find to be quite useful. I hate having to micro that. And now those promises, probably a mistake here, they probably ran out of mortars and were attack moved anyway, or target moved anyway. Leopard 2A4 in a bit of a duel he doesn't want to be in, as there is an M91A Vihor coming in, but Smoke is able to rescue him for right then, cutting line of sight as we reverse backwards and into those trees. Two M1A1 Abrams are answering the call instead, so these are from my ally Grim, who is now engaged in some pretty risky fights over in Charlie as well, and the Israeli infantry are finally pushing forward, stunning and killing a triple squad of FJB. This is really not the right role for those guys. I mean, it's a lot of value there that didn't need to be lost. A10 Thunderbolt coming in, getting some good kills. Let's see if he can get out, and taking some fire. But, ooh, staying in, getting a second shot, and unfortunately swing and a miss there as more missiles come in, and that A10 really is just, I think, might be better lucky than good sometimes, yeah. But the M1A1 Abrams, having moved up and engaged with the enemy, got a couple good kills on T-55s, but they're struggling against the sheer volume of ATGMs. Weapon jammed, of course, means that there's no answering fire from him for right now. My own Leopard 2A5s moving up forward with a Verkenning spotting, and a PAH-2 Tiger to dissuade those Niwash, although frankly in those numbers the Niwash would not be enough. Now we have player finally pushing forward and just destroying what Grim had on the eastern side. M3A2 Bradley's not going to be enough to stop that push on his own, and we do have, what was the marker? Don't quite know. Another Nighthawk coming in, shooting at those two Modernas. Let's see how HE bombs do for that sort of thing. One of them does go down. It's actually quite impressive. The other Moderna is stunned. Of course, it was a side shot, not a frontal shot, so who's to say if that would have gotten through frontal armor. But Leopard's now working pretty well together, the 2A4 and the 2A5 taking out a T-55 and moving up, but we are going to still struggle, as always, with incoming ATGMs, as an M91 tries to also move over through these woods and cut us off. But the KCT are going to be opening fire. Carl Gustav M2, of course, missing his first 84% chance because, well, why would he hit? Here comes the second one. That is a hit, but it's not all that much damage, as the Vihor has exceptionally hard frontal armor. We do finally have replacements, so Flak Panzer Gepard moving up, the Hawk Helos as well moving up, and we're finally able to get some fire on that THS Mi-24A, which goes down pretty easily here. M91 Vihor in retreat, killing another T-55 probably. But my Leopard 2A5 is spotted, that's going to be an issue. I have smoke online for 2A4, but I need to get smoke online for the 2A5 as well. Tiger moving up, taking down their scout helicopter, and probably flying a bit close to the sun here as I'm trying to get the Mi-35 as well. This is, of course, 90 point attack helicopter that gets taken down by the Tiger, as well as a Flak Panzer Gepard 2. So a very nice kill there, and thanks to my allies' support this whole game, we're finally able to push through these woods in advance that Halkmom and Warpig, who were combined over on this side pretty much the whole game, are no longer able to resist. So pretty good stuff going on there. Unfortunately, the M91A Vihor drawing out an ATGM and then immediately hiding, and now we have a bit of a late game Helo rush coming in from Grim, which it's not my style, but I've seen it before. I've had it done to me before. It's a little unpleasant. And we do have some beacons now, as Grim has been ignoring golf for long enough that players moving forward and having some pretty good success bringing in some sort of AA that's stunning and killing this Cepha B. Not exactly what you want to have going on, but it's a little bit too little too late as we round the 500 point marker there. So in terms of kills and losses, we have 7,070 kills, 4,765 losses. For myself, that's 2,300 or so kills, 1,760 losses, not bad. Most of the positive element of that came out at the end of the game. Grim Reaper also did very well. A lot of that was supporting on my side, as well as his initial good engagements. In the Eastern Front, Vimes in the middle sort of, I mean, this undersells his impact on the match, right? Because he didn't engage all that much, but where he did, it was usually pretty good, and he usually didn't yield his position. So fending off the push into that center zone, I believe Delta, but the center zone that he was holding the whole game, pushing up a little bit toward it at the end just to make the enemy a little bit more uncomfortable. And as for standouts for the Red Force side, Warpig probably did the best. Player sort of struggled. 960 kills against 2060 losses is not exactly phenomenal. And in terms of standout units, the Lance got a couple kills, but really not all that much. PH2 Tiger did very well, so taking out an M91 AV pays for himself right then and there. Leopard 2A5 was pretty good, didn't get a ton of kills, but was definitely a mainstay on that side and probably dissuaded enemy tank pushes. Yeah, I'd say so. Lord Totu's got 2 T55s, which, I mean, hey, that's 110 points, it's always a good thing. Leopard 2A4 did well, Martyr 2s did okay, although I was a little too aggressive with them. I kind of overestimated that armor a little bit more than I should have, and that'll be the game. So thank you all for hanging around. We'll see you again real soon.